Let's look at how you can write the methodology chapter for a qualitative study. When conducting a qualitative study, there are several decisions that a researcher needs to make. The different decisions and assumptions that a researcher will make, either consciously or unconsciously, will form the basis of their philosophy and their approach to generating new knowledge. When you are conducting a study, you are trying to get new knowledge, and that is the reason why we normally look for research gaps in the introductory chapters, and we seek to fill such research gaps across our study. The different conscious and unconscious assumptions and decisions made when conducting qualitative research are what we seek to capture in the methodology chapter of a qualitative study. In the methodology chapter, we simply seek to explain our ways of working to readers of our research study so that we can give the readers a platform through which they can interpret, understand, and even judge our findings. One of the most effective tools that we can use to design our methodology chapter when conducting a qualitative study is the Saunders Research Onion. The Saunders Research Onion is a framework that was developed by Mark Saunders, a renowned scholar in the business discipline. The Saunders Research Onion is made up of different layers that researchers need to peel or clarify before they conduct their qualitative study. By peeling the different layers of the Saunders Research Onion, a researcher conducting a qualitative study will therefore clearly define their methodology. When applying the Saunders Research Onion to qualitative research, we only consider 5 main layers, including 1. Research philosophy, 2. Methodological choices, 3. Strategy, 4. Time horizon, and 5. Techniques and procedure. The first layer that we peel when using the Saunders Research Onion to organize our methodology chapter is the research philosophy. When conducting research, a researcher will bring certain philosophical assumptions, which will be stances the researcher will take in order to determine the direction of their study. This will include ontological assumptions related to the researcher's view of reality, epistemological assumptions related to how a researcher knows reality, axiological assumptions associated with the value stance taken by the inquirer, and the procedures that will be used in a study, also known as methodology. In qualitative research, the philosophy of the researcher also includes the interpretive framework they choose to adopt. The interpretive framework adopted by a researcher will therefore indicate their ontological, epistemological, axiological, and methodological assumptions. Some common interpretive framework or research philosophies in qualitative research include post-positivism, socio-constructivism or interpretivism, pragmatism, and postmodern perspectives. Mostly in qualitative research, we rely on or adopt the socio-constructivism or interpretivism research philosophy. Following the socio-constructivism philosophy, our possible goals as researchers would be to understand the world in which we work and live in. On the other hand, the potential research influence for a person adopting the socio-constructivism or interpretivism research philosophy is recognizing the role of past experiences and general background in shaping interpretation. An example of researcher practices for a researcher relying on socio-constructivism or interpretivism philosophy is that they will seek to interpret the participants' construction of meaning in their own perspectives or account. An example of a research study we can conduct through socio-constructivism or interpretivism philosophy is a study investigating the causes of stress among pregnant mothers who are considered a vulnerable group. What are the philosophical beliefs associated with the socio-constructivism or interpretivism framework? The ontological assumptions or beliefs which relate to the nature of reality of a researcher relying on socio-constructivism or interpretivism philosophy is that multiple realities exist at the same time, which are constructed through interaction with others and lived experiences. The epistemological assumptions or beliefs of how reality is known is that reality will be co-created by the researcher and the participants and will be shaped significantly by individual experiences. The axiological assumptions or beliefs, which is the role of values, is that individual values are respected. Such values will be negotiated among different individuals. The methodological beliefs of someone relying on the socio-constructivism or interpretivism research philosophy is that they will rely on more literalist style of writing about the research approach and findings. Such researchers will favor the use of inductive methods of generating ideas and reaching consensus of their different ideas. Researchers relying on the socio-constructivism or interpretivism philosophy will also favor approaches of collecting data and coming up with findings such as observation, interviewing, and analyzing text. I have a video that goes into detail on how each research philosophy or interpretive framework will affect the decisions of a researcher. Please find the link for the video in the description below. Now, let's look at an example of how to write about philosophical assumptions in the methodology chapter of a qualitative study. Let's say we are conducting a study of the causes of stress among pregnant mothers who are considered a vulnerable group. For such a study, we would want to adopt the socio-constructivism or interpretive framework. Having adopted such an interpretive framework, here is how we would write about our philosophical assumptions. 1. Ontological assumptions. In the study of what are the main causes of stress among pregnant mothers who are considered a vulnerable group, the researcher adopted an ontological stance that reality is multiple and can be experienced through different ways. In this regard, the experiences of different mothers or what might be their main cause of stress when pregnant was considered and reported. Let's look at how we would write about epistemological assumptions in a study of the causes of stress among pregnant women who are considered a vulnerable group. In this study, the researcher sought to consider the subjective evidence from the participants as important in an attempt to establish a closer connection with the participants in order to understand the causes of stress during pregnancy. The researcher therefore took time to record the responses of the participants during the interviews and intended to use the participant quotes as evidence of the topic being researched. Let's look at how we would write about axiological assumptions in a study relying on socio-constructivism or interpretivism. When researching the causes of stress among pregnant women, the researcher believed that biases are present in research because of the subjective experience of both the participants and the researcher. As a person who has worked consistently with pregnant women, the researcher believed that their past experiences could have an impact on the interpretation of the information provided by the participants.
Let me interrupt this video for a minute and inform you of my services. My first type of service that I offer is consulting for anything related to qualitative data analysis using NVivo. You hop on a video call with me through Microsoft Teams or Zoom and I will help you become a pro with NVivo in a few hours. I also provide a done-for-you data analysis service. I do the manual coding and provide a data analysis report with the necessary visuals. Some kind of visuals I do include tables, hierarchy charts, and the framework matrix. Email or message me right now. Details in the description.
Now let's look at the second layer of Saunders research onion in designing our methodology, which is methodological choices. When conducting qualitative research, there are only two methodological choices that a researcher will make, which will include either adopting 1. the monomethod qualitative approach and 2. the multi-method qualitative approach. Let's look at the monomethod qualitative approach. The monomethod qualitative approach involves the use of one approach to collect data to analyze in a qualitative study. For example, a researcher can decide to use only interviews as their main method of collecting qualitative data. A researcher can also decide to use only focus groups or only observations as their main approach of collecting data. Let's look at the second methodological choice, which is the multi-method qualitative approach. The multi-method qualitative approach involves the use of different approaches to collecting data and trying to triangulate the findings from more than one data source. For example, a researcher can decide to conduct interviews and at the same time analyze secondary documents or decide to conduct observations. When a researcher relies on more than one approach to collecting data in their qualitative study, they are therefore adopting a multi-method qualitative approach. The third layer that we consider when using the Saunders research onion to organize our methodology chapter is research strategy. When conducting qualitative research, one will need a strategy or an approach that will form the foundation of their research process. There are 5 main qualitative research approaches or strategies, including 1. Phenomenological research, 2. grounded theory research, 3. ethnographic research, 4. case study research, and 5. narrative research. Let's have a quick preview of the 5 main qualitative research strategies. Let's begin with phenomenological research. Phenomenological research involves a description of common meaning of several individuals based on their lived experiences and targeting a given phenomenon or concept. In phenomenological research, a researcher will focus on describing what all participants will have in common as they experience a specific phenomenon. The central purpose of phenomenology is therefore to try and reduce the experiences of different individuals within a specific phenomenon to a description of the universal essence of such experiences. For example, a phenomenological study might involve examining phenomena such as grief, anger, insomnia, and undergoing surgery, among others. In a phenomenological study, a researcher collects data from different persons who have experienced a given phenomenon and develops a combined description of the essence of the experience for all the studied participants. In a phenomenological study, a researcher will therefore try to describe what the participants experience and how they experience it. Let's look at another research strategy, which is grounded theory research. In contrast to narrative research, which focuses on individual stories told by participants, and phenomenology, which emphasizes the common experiences of a group of individuals, grounded theory research aims at moving beyond the description of phenomena in order to generate or discover a theory or a unified theoretical explanation to the occurrence of certain phenomena. In grounded theory research, the participants need to have experienced a given phenomenon, while the development of a theory might have to explain the phenomena or provide a framework for further research of the phenomena. The development of the theory is therefore grounded on the data provided by the participants who have experienced a certain process of phenomena. The grounded theory qualitative research approach involves the researcher seeking to come up with a general explanation or a theory of a process, interaction, or action that is shaped by the views of the large number of participants. Let's look at the third research strategy, which is ethnographic research. Ethnographic research is interested in individuals who share the same culture. Sometimes a cultural group may be made up of a few individuals, such as social workers. However, an ethnographic study typically involves a large group of people who interact over a given period of time. In ethnographic research, a researcher will therefore focus on describing and interpreting shared patterns of behaviors, values, language, and beliefs of the given culture-sharing group under investigation. Ethnographic research involves extended observations of a given group under investigation, most often through participant observation, which involves the researcher being immersed in the day-to-day lives of people they observe and the interviewing group of participants. Let's look at the fourth common research strategy, which is case study research. Case study research involves the study of a single case or a case within a real-life setting. A case can be an individual, an entity, an organization, a small group, or a partnership. A case can also be a relationship, a community, a specific project, or a decision process. In case study research, an investigator will therefore try to explore the specific real-life bounded system, also known as a case, or multiple bounded systems, also known as cases, over a given period of time. The data collection is done through multiple sources such as interviews, observations, documents, reports, and audiovisual material. The researcher will also seek to provide a description of the case or multiple cases and also present dominant themes they find when investigating a given case. Case study research can therefore include a single case or multiple cases. Let's look at the fifth most common research strategy, which is narrative research. As a qualitative research method, narrative research involves highlighting the experiences of individual study subjects as expressed in their told stories and lived experiences. A narrative will therefore involve either written or spoken text that provides an account of a series of events, actions, or a singular event or an action which is chronologically connected. In conducting narrative research, a researcher focuses on studying one or two individuals, gathering data by collecting their stories, reporting on individual experiences, and looking to provide chronological order of the meaning of such experiences. For a deep dive into the different qualitative research strategies, make sure you watch this video. Link in the description. Let's look at the fourth layer that we need to peel when using the Saunders research onion in writing our methodology section, which is time horizon. There are two alternatives related to time horizon when conducting a qualitative study, which include cross-sectional study or a longitudinal study. Let's look at a cross-sectional study. A cross-sectional study is a study that will involve the collection of data over a short period of time, such as a few weeks or a month. Most of the studies that we conduct for a thesis or a dissertation are therefore cross-sectional studies because we collect the data over a short period of time, such as a week, 1 month or 2 months. Now let's look at a longitudinal study. A longitudinal study is a study that will span a long period of time, such as 3 years, a decade, or more. Now, because of the large amount of information collected in qualitative studies, most qualitative researchers rely on the cross-sectional approach and only collect their qualitative data for a short period of time. Now, let's look at the fifth layer we need to peel when using the Saunders research onion to organize the methodology chapter in our thesis or dissertation. The fifth layer that we consider in using the Saunders research onion to organize our methodology chapter is techniques and procedures. These include data collection and data analysis. Let's look at first data collection. There are 4 main approaches to collecting data in qualitative studies. These include 1. Interviews, 2. Focus groups, 3. Observations, and 4. Document analysis. So, what are interviews? Interviews are central to the qualitative research process. An interview is a social interaction that will be based on a conversation related to a given topic. During an interview, knowledge will be constructed as the interviewer interacts with the interviewee. Now, what are focus groups? Focus groups are used to collect qualitative data by asking a group of people about their attitudes or feelings towards a product, service, concept, advertisement, or idea. Questions are asked in an interactive group setting where participants are free to talk with other group members. Now, what are observations? Conducting observations includes noting phenomena in the field setting through the use of 5 senses of the observer, such as sound, sight, smell, touch, and taste. During observations, a researcher will also use note-taking instruments to record the observations for research purposes. The purpose of research and research questions will be the main determinant of the observations made by the researcher. Now, let's look at document analysis. Document analysis is a qualitative research method that involves the examination and interpretation of either printed or electronic documents to identify the major issues, topics, or themes and make conclusions. Now, the second thing that we should consider in the techniques and procedures layer of the Saunders research onion is data analysis. Data analysis is very important when you are writing your methodology chapter in a qualitative study. In qualitative research, different data analysis approaches can be used, with some of the most common being thematic analysis and content analysis. Under thematic analysis, a researcher can decide to either use an inductive or a deductive approach. An example of an inductive approach to thematic analysis is the Brown and Clark 6-step framework for thematic analysis. On the other hand, an example of a deductive approach to thematic analysis is the codebook approach. Now, to understand more about the data analysis approaches that you can use in your qualitative study, such as inductive or deductive approach, watch this video, link in the description. Remember, I provide done-for-you data analysis services and consulting services for any problem or challenge related to NVivo. So check the link and email in the description and talk to me right away. Thank you.